So if you're dealing with chronic canker sores, or the fancy name can be recurrent aphthostomatitis, or just recurrent mouth ulcers, or son of a sack of why does this hurt so much? It's just, these are not a good time. And these can really affect your whole life. They can affect your ability to eat or talk or make out with some girl named Riley that you met at a college mixer when you were 19. I can just remember things really being affected in my life when I would get these canker sores a lot. And it was really not a good time. So if you're dealing with this issue, in this video, I'm going to help you understand the most likely underlying causes that can create this problem and steps you can take to improve it. Let's jump in.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
So it was over on our video for why gut health is about more than just probiotics that users Franska something or other asked, please do a video on canker sores. Is it related to digestive issues? And when we're looking at canker sores, especially when it's a chronic situation where a person's getting a lot of canker sores over and over again, when we're going to look at this topic, let's first clear up any kind of common misconceptions. So canker sores are inside of the mouth and they're not contagious. And then cold sores happen outside of the mouth and they are contagious. Those come from a virus that seems to be flowering, and that's kind of why they show up. Where canker sores seem to have a wide variety of possible either underlying causes or just triggers that are making the whole thing happen. And you can just bite the inside of your mouth and create some type of disturbance to that tissue, and that can lead to a crazy canker sore that's going to hurt for the next 10 to 14 days or so. And that's usually about how long it takes for them to kind of resolve on their own, is like 10 to 14 days. But it can be a miserable 10 to 14 days. So if you can speed that up, it can really be great. And there's a lot of theories about why these come about. And my feeling is that it appears that there's multiple reasons that can really cause them to come about frequently. And, when I was younger, it seemed to be an overacidity in my mouth that was kind of generating this canker sore situation. Like if I happened to take a lot of vitamin C in the form of ascorbic acid, if I took a lot, like if I thought I was getting sick and I took a lot of that, I would get a canker sore. And if I made like this little poultice of baking soda just with a little bit of water and then just stuck it on there, it would really hurt, but it would go away pretty quickly. And we hear from a lot of people who say, oh yeah, I get canker sores if I'm drinking lemon juice or eating some type of citrus fruit or tomatoes, and I feel like it's just the acidity that does that. And then this baking soda poultice type thing directly on the canker sore and just letting it sit there for 10 to 15, 30 seconds while it really feels like it's like burning through your mouth seems to speed up the recovery. But then later in life, I was getting canker sores at one point, and this baking soda thing did nothing to them. It didn't help them at all, and it appears that they were coming from some other cause. But when you're trying to figure out the situation for you, you really don't want just a solution to make it go away faster. You want to figure out what's causing it so that they don't keep coming back. And this overacidity in the mouth seems to be an issue for some people. And when they can avoid the foods that kind of trigger that, they seem to do a whole lot better. But it seems to be more common that this chronic canker sore issue is caused by deficiencies. And I'm going to put some links in the description below to some studies that show us that it seems to be common to see a B12 or a folate deficiency. And these are, B vitamin things. And I'll link a study below that showed that it didn't really seem to matter what their pre-supplementation B12 levels were. Like no matter where they were, when they supplemented with some B12, it seemed to reduce the length or severity or how often they were getting these canker sores. And maybe it has something to do with just the body's ability to bring in that B12. And a lot of people, when the user here was asking, is it a digestive issue? Well, if it's coming from a lack of B12 or an inability to bring B12 into the system, that really could be a digestive malfunction, because we need enough stomach acid to be able to break proteins down correctly so that we can access that B12. And it's very common for someone not to be making enough stomach acid, and then they wouldn't really be able to break that down. And that's where you see a lot of these B12 deficiencies come in. And if someone also had like a dysbiosis situation where they didn't have enough good gut flora, or they had a lot of bad guys in there that have kind of taken over and making the whole kinds of havoc in that digestive tract, then it's a lot of our good gut flora that makes a lot of our B vitamins for us. So that may reduce the body's ability to utilize B12 or some of those other B vitamins. I also find that if somebody's going to try to supplement with B12 to try to correct something that's coming from a B12 deficiency, like it appears this can, that it seems to work better if they can just improve digestion and get more B12 from the food that they're eating, because there's a lot of other cofactors that go along with these B vitamins that help the body utilize them better. And if they can't go that route, if they're going to supplement with B12, I like to see them also supplement with a B complex. And that way you're bringing in all those B vitamins that help the body utilize that B12 a little bit better. But, sometimes it can take some effort to fix digestive malfunctions, and we have tons of videos on how to fix digestive malfunctions. So if you're having any digestive symptoms at all, go to our channel and search for that symptom, and you'll find videos on how to correct that and why it's coming about. So if someone wanted to supplement with B12 and maybe some folate and a B complex to see does that improve the situation a lot faster, they may be able to take that step while they're taking steps to improve digestion so that they can get those nutrients out of the food that they're eating. And then another underlying cause that seems to be common is some type of immune response that's going on in the body. And whether it's a situation where there's some type of invader and the immune system has to be dealing with this invader, that it allows these canker sores to come about, or is it some type of overreaction from the immune system? Because there's a lot of indications that these can be very common with food sensitivity issues as well, which is often like an autoimmune type response to a food. And so when we're looking at the solutions when this is the issue, we hear from a lot of people that do well taking lysine. And we also hear from people that say, oh, well, when I get cold sores, I also get canker sores, so they must be connected. And the reality is that they're usually not. But if something is occupying the immune system or reducing the immune system's ability to function correctly, and one thing that can do that is pulling too much calcium out of the tissues, which if somebody was eating a lot of carbs or sugars, that could do that. If someone got a little bit more sun exposure than they normally get, or they were taking higher levels of vitamin D, all of those things have the ability to pull too much calcium out of the tissues. And then the immune system doesn't really get signaled that it's time to attack an invader. And that's why a lot of people who have cold sores, they'll get a breakout when too much calcium gets pulled out of the tissues. And then it's very popular for people who you get cold sores to use this amino acid called lysine, because it helps push calcium back down to the tissues. And this also seems to be beneficial when it comes to canker sores for some people. So you'll see a lot of popular canker sore remedies out there that contain like lysine and B12 and things like that. So when you can put these things together, it seems to raise the odds of it improving the situation for a person. But when we're looking at this immune type response, I've also wondered at times that if it was some type of yeast, mold, fungal issue that was exacerbating the issue for some folks, because you'll hear from people that will do well with, I'm going to kind of do this oil pulling thing with coconut oil, and I'm going to rinse that around in my mouth for 20 or 30 minutes, and that really speeds up the recovery. Maybe putting a teaspoon of salt in some warm water and swishing that around in your mouth for a few minutes really seems to speed up the ability to heal that. And also grapefruit seed extract. Some people do well when they swish some of that around in their mouth, and these are some things that have the ability to kill off some of these type of invaders that could be creating trouble in the mouth. So I've often wondered if that is a problem for some folks, and if these other things that are more commonly successful don't work for you, then you might want to try some of these things to see about, is it some type of infection going on that's occurring in your mouth, and when you can do some of these rinse things, does it speed up the healing process for you? I also put some links below that can indicate that stress can be problematic and can be an issue that can trigger issues like this, which makes sense because like when there's an invader, that can be a stress on the body, but you may just be dealing with stress in your life that reduces the body's ability to handle all the things it needs to handle and can create some type of canker sore like this. There's also one other thing that you'll find a lot of information about when you research this, and this is toothpaste and other things that include sodium lauryl sulfate, or SLS, and this seems to be an ingredient that seems to magnify how frequently a person will get these canker sore type issues. So you might want to check your toothpaste and make sure that it doesn't have that ingredient and see if avoiding that helps the situation for you. So again, you can see that there's multiple things that seem to help people, which kind of leads me to believe that there's multiple things that can create the issue from person to person. So check those things out and see which one might help you, whether that be reducing things that create acidity in the mouth, or maybe rinsing with a little bit of baking soda or putting that baking soda directly on it, or taking care of any of the vitamin deficiencies like the B12 or the folate, or looking at an immune response and maybe using some lysine to help the immune system work more appropriately. So if you have other things that you found have helped your canker sores, put those in the comments for us so that we can help other people find things that may work for them. And for right now, if you feel like you might be having some digestive symptoms that could restrict your ability to absorb B12 correctly or folate, then you can jump over right now and check out our video on 20 signs you may not be digesting your food correctly, so you can gain more insights if that's something that you need to address. I can't wait to hear about your results.